fact that they weren't going to be threatened into not voting. And you know, it was at that point that I thought, I think this country will work out. It has certainly went through some tough times, and there will be some more tough times still. But I think that that country will stabilize. I don't believe it'll be a Jeffersonian democracy. If our expectations that they're going to look like New England, I think it isn't going to happen. But I think what will happen is it'll stabilize, and I think that that will be a country that will act on their own interests, which we have to expect. That they'll act under, every country does. But I think by and large, it'll be a stable country, and it'll be a reasonable country on the world scene. Incredible highs, but also some really tough lows. I will tell you that we have lost good soldiers, good servicemen in this war. And I'll share with you very briefly the story of Chris Pusateri. He's a guy that our unit lost in Iraq in February of 2005. Chris was from New York. He was actually from a community similar to right here in Grafton. He was from the outskirts of Corning, but he was an avid outdoorsman who loved to hunt and fish. And Chris, in the fall of 2004, Chris came to me because he knew I had served in the 10th Mountain Division earlier in my career, and he said, I'm considering re-enlisting to go to New York so I can hunt with my buddies on weekends. What do you think about that, sir? Now I'm commanding a battalion at Fort Bragg in the 82nd, so I'm conflicted because I want to see him stay. But on the other hand, we want to see him rise to his God-given potential, and he's interested in serving, and serving back at Fort Drum. And I said, you know what, it's a great place to serve. And so he re-enlisted to go to the 10th Mountain Division. But a few weeks later, we were alerted to go to Iraq. And Chris came to his chain of command, his sergeants, and said, I want to delay my reassignment until such time that we are redeployed back from Iraq, because I want to be there for my buddies when they go off to war. And we approved that. And Chris went forward. Chris was always there for his buddies. And his last day on earth was no different. That was the 16th of February of 2005. Chris had been up all night long. He'd been on a watch, and he had just been relieved of his duty and was resting when we had a very vicious gunfight break out with an Al-Qaeda cell that was operating in Mosul. That's in northern Iraq. And Chris immediately came to, he put his gear on, and he moved to his fighting position. And at that point, an armor-piercing incendiary round that came through the cement hit the butt of his weapon. The round fractured, and part of the shrapnel went into his chin and went to the back of his head. And we did everything we could to save Chris, and in the end, it wasn't enough. We lost him. We lost Chris Pusateri. And I will tell you, that guy, Chris Pusateri, you know, I learned after the fact, was born on the 4th of July of 1983. And you know how incredibly fitting, because Chris was somebody who was red, white, and blue to the core. And I share with you his story because, you know, it's an American story. There's too many stories like that. There's a lot of stories out like that, but I wanted to make it real for you. I want to share with you the loss of this man who will never come back. Our family, his family will never be the same without him. And at this point, all we can do is we can honor that sacrifice. He did that on behalf of all of us. And what we need to do now is to finish this war as quickly and successfully as possible, which I believe we're in the process of doing. And then we need to remember that every day. When we live free, when we think about countries all around this world, and we think about how much we fight about here in America, and we're gonna disagree about some things this November. But remember the fact that we are a free nation, and we have the greatest opportunities in the world. We have more in common than we ever have apart. And keep in mind Chris Pusateri when you go through that. I'm passionate about this country. I'm passionate about the possibilities of our future. We're clearly in a tough time right now. There isn't any doubt. We have too many neighbors out of work, some of them are here today. We have a deficit and a debt that continues to spiral out of control. We run the risk of being the first generation, my generation, we run the risk of being the first generation to leave our country worse off than we found it. If we don't change course, that could happen. And to me, that's not only an economic imperative, it's a moral imperative. My generation, I feel like we've spent our parents' money, we've spent our money, and now we're reaching for our kids' money. It's not right to do. We've got to restore fiscal responsibility. Now that means we're going to have to make some tough choices. But I believe if we make the right choices, our best days are still in front of us. I believe that too. So while I'll tell you I'm disappointed, I'm not discouraged, and I think they're